Hey guys, it's your girl Don't Touch My Toys, and today I want to do a little dolly chat. So I've been seeing a trending topic being asked in my DMs on social media, and that's, hey, how do you determine what you want to get rid of? Isn't that hard? Aren't you attached to this stuff? How do you even start your process? How do you go about that? So I thought I would share some of the things that I use to help me through that and give you a little bit more backstory on my collecting journey so you can see how we even got to that place where it's not as difficult to get rid of some of my dolls. Don't get me wrong, I still hoard a lot of stuff, but don't even get me started on my doll clothes because I'm a work in progress and baby steps, but let's get into it. So I do want to just preface this conversation and first state that this is what works for me and my collection as well as my collecting habits. So take what you want out of this conversation. What I do may not apply to you. What I do may not work for the way that you shop or the way that you curate your collection. Now, as a child, I was obsessed with Barbie. I loved Barbie, and I don't think I stopped really playing with Barbie until I was probably around 11 or 12 years old, which I was starting to become a preteen at that age. It was no longer cool to be playing with Barbies. So as much as I loved Barbie, I didn't openly promote that I was into Barbie. I didn't want Barbies anymore for Christmas because that was for little kids, and poor Barbie got put on the back burner. So the love of dolls doesn't just go away. Into my adulthood collecting journey, it was the year 2013. I was living overseas in Japan. Instagram was now popping. Everybody was on Instagram, and I started seeing a lot of doll content coming into my algorithm. I also was actively shopping at thrift stores and going to hobby shops, and there was an amazing collection of different types of dolls that I had never seen before in my youth when I was still into dolls. So that introduced me into pull-up dolls, which then led me into Lika-chan dolls, which then led me into Takara Jenny dolls. And before you knew it, I was full-blown into the doll collecting universe again. I still loved Barbie, and I was actively looking at Barbie content on the very early days of Instagram, but Barbie just was not accessible in Japan. You didn't find her at the hobby shops. You didn't find her at thrift stores. There were no like estate sales and yard sales that you can go and source that type of stuff. So at the moment when I first started, it was all about the dolls of Japan. When I did come back to the United States in 2016, I was following a lot of doll accounts on Instagram at this time, and I was really itching to start buying Barbie again. What started that downward spiral, that slippery slope into Barbie land, was going to swap meets. So I refer to this period of my life as my baby collector era. And when I was a baby collector era, I was so excited to find all of those Barbies of my childhood. And a lot of these dolls were very accessible, and I would easily find them at flea markets and estate sales. And let's just say that my collection grew rapidly. At that time in my life, I was excited about any type of vintage Barbie. I didn't even care like which one it was. I didn't care to even identify them. I was going based off of, is she pretty? Do I like her hair? It didn't matter. As long as I liked what she looked like, I bought her on impulse. If she was the right price, I would bring her home. I was bringing tons and tons of 80s and 90s Barbies home on a weekly basis. So as you can probably imagine, with this type of buying habits, I ended up getting most of the dolls from my childhood in no time. So once that happened, it's like, where do we go from here with my collection? Once I had purchased most of those dolls that reminded me of my childhood, I then ventured into the dolls that I completely was oblivious to because I was already a teenager and Barbie wasn't cool anymore. So that's when I was introduced to Y2K dolls, which now as an adult And as a current Barbie collector that still does buy Barbie, that is what sparks the most joy for me right now at this moment, is a lot of those Y2K dolls that I didn't even know existed until I started on this Barbie collection journey. Now, that's not to say that I no longer love my childhood doll collection. I'm still obsessed with Superstar 88. I would never sell my Totally Hair Barbie. I would never sell my glitter hair Barbies. I love those so much. But there's different series that were released during my childhood that I just don't gravitate to anymore, like some of my beach Barbies, for instance. So one of the obvious reasons for what should I buy, what should I get rid of, is space. And that is a common theme amongst any collector, unless you live in endless real estate where you can just keep buying and buying Barbies, or if you have storage units and things like that. Space is always going to be a factor if you continue to buy and buy and buy. So of course, space is an issue for me as well. And basically my motto has been that if I get to a point where I don't have space on my shelves to actively display the dolls, then I'm going to reduce the excess dolls to one bin and no more. So I just know that my husband is going to see this video most likely on his YouTube algorithm. So let me just plead my case right now. Yes, currently I have 2 bins of Barbies, one in my room and one in the garage. And if you watched my previous doll show video, that's what we're working on. We're trying to get rid of that extra bin. So we only have the 1 bin of dolls that don't fit on my shelves. My personal thought is I don't want to have dolls that I can't see. I want to be able to come in here and visually see all of the dolls that I'm still super excited about and that I really, really love. The bin concept that I have is just a work in progress because I do still have that mindset of, oh, but what if I'm gonna want to play with this someday? Or what if I really need this someday? So what I end up doing with the whole bin method is I keep dolls in a bin and I usually hold on to them. And this may seem really excessive and unnecessary to some collectors, but I hang on to these dolls for a year. If after a year I still have not done anything with these dolls and they've just been sitting in there collecting dust, okay, not collecting dust, but not seeing the life of day, then it's time for it to go. And it does make me sad sometimes because those dolls are in a bin for a reason, meaning I'm not playing with them often enough, but I'm not quite ready to say goodbye to them. After a year, I feel much better about it. Like, I talk to myself and I say, girl, you have not even taken this doll out of this bin in a year. Like, what good is it doing here? Why don't you resell this doll and buy something that is going to spark joy for you? That Grail Fashion Fever doll that you've been saving up for and that you just haven't found yet out in the wild. Why don't you sell this and go and buy that Fashion Fever? Because you know that that's something that you will make space for, you will prioritize on your doll shelf. To be quite honest with you, I don't even like having the bin system because I have an excessive collection. I realize that. I know that this is a lot. I got a lot going on. And I really wish that I could be one of those doll collectors that's a minimalist, that is like, I only collect Fashion Fever and that's it. Or I only collect mermaid dolls and that's it. Unfortunately, that's just not me. I like a little bit of everything. We want a variety. So yeah, I like a variety. However, I do realize that my collection goes through phases and I have my different eras. I have my different moments. There was a time that I was obsessed with Kelly dolls and I was wanting to collect all the Kelly dolls. There was a time that I I was really into 80s and 90s Skipper, and that was what I was so attached to at that time. Right now, I'm in my Y2K moment. I'm into Fashion Fever. I'm into all those iconic Bill Greening dolls that I never got my hands on, that I never saw in person. I'm into Barbie Basics. I'm into the Barbie Diaries. There's so many dolls from that era that I want. Now, maybe who's to say in 10 years I'll be really into mod. I'll finally venture into mod Barbies. I don't know, but the process has been a lot easier for me the longer I've been collecting, because at the end of the day, I want my dolls to be seen. That's the main takeaway, I guess, from my mindset and what I should buy and what I should get rid of is I want it to be seen, and I know that if a doll is not being seen for long enough, then it's just best that I find a new home for it. Which leads me to my next point, which is the reselling journey. So I started doing Barbie sales as a way to thin down my collection. And sure, could I have donated these Barbies to the thrift store? Absolutely. That would have been very easy to just take a bin of Barbies and dump it off at Goodwill or Savers. I'm sure my husband is like, well, you have that bin in the garage, just take it to the thrift store if you're really truly trying to get rid of it. I can't do that. Personally, I just can't. I worked so hard to curate that collection that I can't just dump it off at a thrift store. I still have a little bit of attachment to it, so it just gives me a little bit of peace if I can at least make a little money off of it. I mean, hate me if you want for selling these dolls, but that's what works for me, and that's what helps me to actually get rid of it. Otherwise, I probably would just continue like building this endless doll hoard. So reselling 100% has helped me not feel as attached to dolls. And to piggyback onto the whole reselling journey, that has helped me in more ways than just thinning down my collection. For one, it's helped me with community. It's made doll collecting, Barbie specifically, it's made it continue to be fun for me, because when you get to a point in your doll collecting journey where you have everything that you really want, I still love that joy of finding stuff. For me personally, as a doll collector, I get all of my stuff secondhand. And so the thrill of the hunt is what keeps me really keeps me going. And that's one of the parts that I love most about doll collecting, is getting to find this stuff out in the wild. But at some point when you have all the stuff that you're trying to hunt for, you know, you're missing out on that thrill of the hunt, because you're like, okay, well, I already have this. Now what? I don't need 2 of these. I don't need 3 of these. But it's been fun, because even when I'm out, if I find something that I already have, but I'm just like, I can't leave this behind. This is Generation Girl Tori. Like, I'm gonna bring her home. At least I can zhuzh her up, and I can put her in one of my claim sales, and she could go to another Barbie collector's home. And again, I know that there's a lot of controversy behind this, because a lot of doll collectors, they're either pro resellers or they're against them. Whatever, I don't even want to get into that. That's a whole other video. But I will say that for me, it's been fun, because I still get that, you know, that fun excitement of finding a doll in the wild, but I'm not keeping it. I'm bringing it home, I'm restoring her, and I'm able to be basically a source for other doll collectors to where they can now own this doll. And I have people that have been buying from me for years and years, and a lot of times the feedback is usually positive. I have a lot of loyal doll collectors that buy from me, and they're like, thank God that you have these claim sales, because I live in a very rural area. I don't find stuff like this. Like, this is amazing that I'm able to at least buy from you and you ship it to me, and I can just do this from the comfort of my home and avoid eBay and things like that, because I do keep my prices reasonable, so they're not eBay prices. And that is, for the most part, you know, I have a lot of people that really appreciate that they can come to me and find clean, curated dolls that may be on their wish list. So that's pretty much it. That is what works for me personally, is space, because I understand that I only have so much space, and it does me no good if I have dolls that are just in a bin and that I'm never even going to see, that I will eventually forget I even have. And being able to resell some of the dolls and make a little bit of money and make that process easier to let go. But that may not work for you. Again, this is my journey and this is what works for me, but I hope that provides any curious people out there a little bit more insight into my thought process and where I'm at currently in my collecting journey and what has helped me along the way. But this is an open conversation, so feel free to let me know your thoughts, your opinions. If you feel like you want to share some of the obstacles that you run into with downsizing your collection, I'm all ears. I'd love to discuss this with you guys in the comments. And until next time, I'll catch you on the next video. Bye.